Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today for the webinar. We'll give it just a few seconds and then we'll get started. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for joining our webinar today. We'll be talking about the Precision Medicine Depression Research Program. My name is Elise Pennington. I am a scientist with the Precision Medicine team, and I'm joined today by my colleagues Julianne McCall and David Reiner. So here's the agenda. We'll be going over a little background on the Precision Medicine team, and then the goals of the request for information and listening sessions with an overview, and then we'll leave time at the end for Q&A. And I just want to point out that this is being recorded, but we will not record the Q&A section. So we'll get started with some background on the California Initiative to Advance Precision Medicine, or CIAPM. So first of all, what is precision medicine? It can be summed up by this statement: the right medication for the right patient at the right time. And precision medicine considers that molecular, environmental, behavioral, and many other factors contribute to health and disease. And precision medicine can be used for more accurate diagnoses, more efficient disease prevention, better treatment selection, and the development of new therapies. And precision medicine really utilizes the fact that healthcare and research engages individuals as partners. They're not simply patients or research subjects. And so to advance these aims, the California Initiative to Advance Precision Medicine was established in 2015. And since then, we've had $67 million in investment, which has been used primarily as grant money for demonstration research projects. And these research projects focus on cross-sector partnerships to reduce health disparities and really emphasize community researcher collaborations. So as I mentioned, the demonstration research projects focus on cross-sector partnerships between many stakeholders, including researchers, communities, healthcare providers, industry, and others, with a special emphasis on community researcher collaborations. And that's to ensure that research results are actually aligned with the priorities of California communities. And so we've listed here some categories of demonstration projects that have been completed so far, and as well as the current projects, which focus on cancer disparities and adverse childhood experiences. And our upcoming focus is on depression research, which is what we're here to talk about today. So I want to start out with a little vignette that describes sort of what depression management looks like today and what it could look like in a future that uses precision medicine. So let's say we have a patient, Maria. She has a family history of depression. She tells her doctor and he records it in her medical chart, but nothing really comes of it. And then a few months later, she starts experiencing loss of sleep and loss of interest, but it's just attributed to loss of sleep. So then after a few more months, she's diagnosed with depression and goes through a cycle of testing out different medications with various side effects. And it takes a while to settle on an antidepressant that really helps her with her depression. And so what would this situation look like with a more precision medicine focused treatment plan? So once Maria's family history is told to her doctor, it's uploaded into her electronic health record, which all of her doctors have access to. And she's also given information about how to prevent depression. But then if she starts experiencing depressive symptoms, she's diagnosed quickly because all of her doctors have this information. And then once diagnosed, she's treated with the correct medication because her doctors know about all of the molecular, genetic, environmental effects impacting her. And so we're really excited in the precision medicine team to have this depression research program. We have $9 million in research funds to improve strategies for prevention, diagnosis, and treatment of depression. And we really want to focus on mental health care for individuals, not a one-size-fits-all approach for the average patient, because there's no such thing as an average patient. And so the funds will fund 3 to 5 demonstration projects focused on depression research with the goal of better understanding depression in underserved communities. And one of the key features of this program is that nonprofit research institutions will partner with community organizations. And so this will be a required part of the funding opportunity. And so we want to point out that the Precision Medicine website contains an asset inventory, which contains a couple hundred community organizations that are available to partner with. So we encourage you to utilize that tool. And so now I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, David Reiner.
Hi, everyone. My name is David Reiner, and I'm also a scientist with the Precision Medicine Office. And I am here to really talk through the request for information and listening sessions associated with our depression research program and kind of bring us home through the rest of the presentation. Next slide, please. So our depression research program, we're moving forward in 2 stages. The first stage, where we are now, is really gathering information on depression. We've done this on our own internally with a gap assessment and landscape analysis of kind of the problem and the issues involving depression among different communities, as well as a landscape of the current funding and literature. But we're also doing this at the community level with listening sessions in partnership with the Mental Health Commission and the request for information that we're here to talk about today. The second stage involves the request for proposals, which will be the focus of a webinar in the future, but essentially this entails a letter of intent, a concept proposal, an out-of-state committee, and a full proposal in various stages. Next slide, please. You can see these stages here on this timeline, kind of giving rough estimates of when each stage will be. We released a notice of funding intent in January earlier this year. The request for information was released a few weeks ago in July. We're hosting those listening sessions we're hosting are in July and August, and the request for information is due August 18th. From there, we'll use the information we get from the listening sessions and the RFI to inform our request for proposals. And from there, we'll release the request for proposals in the early fall. Letters of intent will be due a month or so after that, and kind of so on throughout the process. Again, that's the second half of the timeline will be the focus of a later webinar. Next slide, please. So like I mentioned, the goal of the request for information and listening sessions is to understand community needs to better address inequities and gaps with research funding. The goal of the RFI is to do this broadly across California, across different communities. And the goal of the listening sessions is to really supplement the RFI and to understand community needs and lived experiences in intimate settings. And this is, we're doing this in partnership with the Mental Health Services and Oversight Accountability Commission. This is kind of separate but supplemental to the RFI. Next slide, please. So now we're going to give you an overview of the RFI. So you can access the RFI at this link here, and also our colleague Julianne put the link in the chat as well. And essentially this provides an overview of kind of the purpose of the RFI. And on the next slide, we have kind of a screenshot of some of the major questions that we're asking within the RFI. Just as an example, which community or communities within California have the greatest need for improved depression outcomes? Please explain your reasons. And then another question, how are depression and mental health viewed in your community or your community of expertise? So we have a series of questions like this to really get a sense of community needs from different perspectives across the state of California. Next slide, please. So to summarize, the RFI responses may help us develop the scope of future research funding on the prevention, diagnosis, or treatment of depression. This funding will support teams of researchers and community organizations that center patient care in a culturally relevant manner and consider the whole person. That's our precision medicine approach. We encourage you to respond to the RFI to ensure perspectives of your community or community of expertise are included. Thank you very much for attending and for listening. We're now happy to open up this webinar to Q&A about the RFI process. You are free to enter your questions in the Q&A and we'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.